As many psychics and mediums predicted, 2024 turned out to be a year of turbulence, with hints of an even more chaotic 2025 ahead. According to some of these forecasters, the end of 2024 would bring shocking events before things eventually come to a peaceful end, and sadly, one of those predictions came true in South Korea. Just after the global sensation of Squid Game Season 2, the country once again made headlines, but this time for a tragic reason. A flight traveling from Thailand to Jeju Island crash-landed, resulting in the loss of 179 lives. This devastating incident marked the end of the year with a grim reminder of the fragility of life, just as the world had begun to turn its attention back to South Korea's cultural resurgence. On December 29, 2024, Jedu Air Flight 2216, a Boeing 737-800, tragically crashed after issuing a Mayday call while descending toward Muan International Airport in southwestern South Korea. The flight, carrying 181 passengers and crew members from Bangkok to Muan, belly-landed and struck a concrete barrier, causing the plane to burst into flames. 179 people were killed, and only 2 flight attendants survived. This is now the deadliest aviation disaster in South Korea since 1997. Just after 9 a.m. local time, the plane was approaching Muan when it issued a Mayday call after the pilot reported a bird strike. The control tower had warned the pilot about birds in the area shortly before the incident. The pilot tried to abort the landing and execute a go-around, a maneuver where a plane ascends to attempt a new approach, but the plane ultimately crash-landed on its belly, sliding down the runway and hitting an embankment, where it burst into flames. Video footage showed the plane's landing gear was not deployed, and it was unclear whether it had failed to deploy or collapsed upon landing. Experts have suggested the bird strike could have played a role, but questions remain about how much it contributed to the crash. South Korean police and aviation authorities have launched a thorough investigation into the cause, with raids at Jedu Air's offices, Muan Airport, and a regional aviation office. The investigation is focused on possible professional negligence and the role of the concrete barrier at the runway's end, which experts believe may have worsened the severity of the crash. Both black boxes were recovered, but the flight data recorder was damaged and had to be sent to Seoul and possibly the US for further analysis. The crash site has been declared a special disaster zone, and authorities are conducting an emergency inspection of all Boeing 737-800s in South Korea, with a focus on landing gear and other critical components. South Korea's acting president declared 7 days of national mourning, and officials have promised a transparent investigation. The government has also expressed a commitment to prevent similar incidents by tightening aviation safety standards. Boeing, the manufacturer of the aircraft, has offered condolences and is assisting in the investigation, emphasizing the safety record of the 737-800 model. Among the victims were 84 men, 85 women, and 10 unidentified, with 2 Thai nationals on board. Family members have been devastated, with many waiting at the airport and forming long lines to pay their respects at a memorial altar. The tragedy has left families in shock, with some expressing disbelief and heartbreak, having lost loved ones in what seemed to be a routine flight. The crash has shocked the nation, with ongoing public grief and mounting questions about aviation safety, maintenance practices, and the role of environmental factors like bird strikes. The investigation is continuing, and the authorities are working to uncover the precise causes behind this devastating event. The concrete barrier at the end of the runway where the Jedu Air crash occurred has become a focal point in the investigation, raising questions about its purpose and safety implications. Known as a localizer, or ILS, Instrument Landing System, antenna installation. The wall houses crucial equipment that helps guide aircraft during their final approach to land. The localizer provides lateral guidance, helping pilots align the plane with the runway, especially in low visibility conditions. However, the design of the barrier, particularly its concrete structure, has drawn criticism from aviation experts. In the case of Flight 2216, after the plane's landing gear failed to deploy, the aircraft belly landed and careened down the runway before colliding with the concrete wall at high speed. The impact caused a massive fireball, and many experts argue that a more forgiving barrier, such as an arrestor bed or energy-absorbing material, could have potentially reduced the severity of the crash and saved lives. The presence of this wall at the end of the runway has sparked concern about the safety standards of such installations, especially after the incident. Investigators are now examining whether its design contributed to the high fatality rate of the crash and whether similar barriers at other airports could pose a risk in the future. As for the bird strikes, it's a common and often manageable issue in aviation, yet it can sometimes have serious consequences, as seen in the recent tragedy in South Korea. Though most bird strikes do not lead to fatalities, they can still cause significant disruption to flight operations and safety. Horizon Air Flight 2041, Christmas Eve 2024. Right before the Jeju flight incident, a bird strike forced a Horizon Air flight traveling from Anchorage to Fairbanks to turn around shortly after takeoff. The crew, trained for such emergencies, safely returned the plane to Anchorage. No emergency was declared, and the passengers were reassigned to another aircraft. The aircraft was inspected and returned to service, showcasing how quickly such incidents can be addressed when caught early. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, March 2019. This tragic crash that killed all 157 people on board was partly attributed to a faulty flight control system that was triggered by a bird strike. The bird caused a sensor failure that activated the flawed MCAS system, resulting in the aircraft's nose pitching downward. This incident was part of a series of accidents involving the Boeing 737 MAX, underscoring how even a bird strike can trigger a cascade of technical failures. Miracle on the Hudson, January 2009. One of the most famous bird strike incidents occurred when U.S. Airways Flight 1549 struck a flock of geese shortly after taking off from LaGuardia Airport. The geese disabled both engines, forcing Captain Chesley Sullenberger to make a daring emergency landing in the Hudson River. Miraculously, all 155 passengers and crew survived, highlighting the unpredictability of bird strikes and the importance of swift, decisive action in response to such events. So, if bird strikes can be so fatal, you might wonder, wouldn't it be very dangerous to fly in airplanes? After all, there are birds everywhere, and the odds of planes hitting them should be quite high. But the truth is, airports use various devices and methods to prevent this from happening. The critical moments are during takeoff and landing, as the altitude is low and there's a higher chance of colliding with birds. But once the plane gets up in the air, it's usually much safer. To prevent bird strikes, airports utilize a variety of devices designed to discourage birds from lingering near critical flight paths. Sound repellents, such as propane cannons, are a common tool, emitting loud, explosive noises that startle birds and drive them away from the area. These cannons are strategically placed around the airport perimeter to keep birds at a safe distance from the runway. Additionally, electronic bird scaring devices can play distress signals or predator calls to further discourage birds from settling in the area. These sounds mimic the threat of predators and create a constant sense of unease for the birds. Laser systems have also become a popular method for deterring birds. High-intensity green lasers are aimed at flocks, disorienting them and making it uncomfortable for them to remain in the area. The intense light confuses birds, encouraging them to fly away without causing them harm. Alongside lasers, visual deterrents such as large reflective bird balloons or shiny tape are often deployed. These devices create moving flashes of light and appear menacing to birds who tend to avoid the unsettling images, particularly when they see the painted eyes on the balloons that simulate predators' gaze. These visual deterrents are effective in making the environment appear hostile to the birds, causing them to seek safer locations. Another more natural method involves the use of falconry, where trained raptors like falcons or hawks are employed to scare away smaller birds. The presence of these skilled hunters alone sends a clear message to other birds that the area is dangerous, prompting them to vacate. Alongside these methods, airports have been known to use bird netting and fencing to physically prevent birds from entering dangerous areas, particularly near runways or hangars. These barriers serve as a direct deterrent, preventing birds from roosting or flying into restricted zones. For more advanced monitoring, radar systems are now being implemented at some airports. These systems track the movements of birds in real time, alerting airport personnel when flocks are approaching. With this information, authorities can quickly deploy sound devices, lasers, or visual deterrents to clear the area before an aircraft lands or takes off, ensuring that birds are kept at a safe distance during critical moments. Bird strikes have been increasing in frequency over the years, although they still remain relatively rare compared to the total number of flights each year. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, there were 19,603 reported wildlife strikes in the U.S. alone in 2023. Of those, about 54 strikes occur daily on average, with the majority involving birds. The data shows a steady increase in the number of wildlife strikes over the past several decades. A few key factors contributing to this trend: increased air traffic. As more flights take to the skies, the chances of bird strikes naturally rise. Urbanization and bird habitats. As cities expand, more birds are coming into close contact with airports and flight paths. In particular, the expansion of airports near migratory routes or large bodies of water often increases the likelihood of bird activity near runways. For effective reporting, airlines and airports have improved their reporting systems, leading to more comprehensive tracking of wildlife strikes. However, despite the increase in bird strikes, fatalities or serious injuries from them are still relatively rare due to improved aircraft design, technology, and airport wildlife management. In 2025, when we know that things are likely to become more chaotic and unpredictable, certain events may be more frequent due to celestial factors. For example, Earth could be affected by the energies of other planets, which may be aggressive, unstable, and evolutionary. This could cause turbulence in the Earth's magnetic field. Animals, including birds, are highly sensitive to changes in the magnetic field, and recent studies have shown that animals like birds, bees, and even whales have exhibited unusual behavior, possibly in response to shifts in Earth's magnetic field. Given these potential disruptions, it might be wise to be more cautious, particularly when flying. You might want to reduce the number of flights you take, as the disturbance in the magnetic field could increase the likelihood of accidents, including bird strikes. Additionally, we should consider the risks associated with travel. The unstable energy could lead to more natural disasters like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. For instance, there are predictions that a volcano in Indonesia may erupt soon. So if you're planning to travel to areas with such risks, you should stay alert and take extra precautions. As always, stay safe and be mindful of the unpredictable nature of the world around us.